The Trump administration now wants to make it easier for farms to hire immigrants after trying to deport all of them. After conducting mass deportation of farms and all of the ICE raids, Trump is now trying to get all of those immigrant farm workers back. Because it turns out Americans never wanted those jobs and they still don't. Shocker. And the farms are really pissed off about losing a majority of their workforce. So he's going to make it cheaper for farms to hire workers on an agricultural visa called the H-2A visa. Under this new rule, wages will be lowered even more. So what should these farmers do? Apply for a labor trafficking visa, which can get them a green card if they can prove that they've been trafficked into the United States by their employer and then further exploited. So then they can leave their employer and then file a lawsuit against them.
Yeah, MAGA farmers share deportation. Now, they're begging for workers. Yeah, you heard me right. Now they're begging for workers. That's not just a headline you just expect to see, but it's exactly what's happening right now. The same voices, the very, very same voices that were confidently saying, send them back, are now looking around their farm asking like, wait, who's going to do the work in our farm? And the craziest part is how fast things flipped. One moment it was about tough policies, and the next it's about survival. So folks, if you're watching me for the first time, please don't forget to subscribe, like and share. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Guys, I was wrong and I can admit that. When people were saying that mass deportations would greatly affect farmers, I didn't actually think they were serious. They said that Americans were unwilling to do the jobs that immigrants do, and I didn't believe them. But this new video that I just saw proved me wrong.
It's just been harder and harder and harder to find those people to work.
Bethany Gotts owns Quay's Farm in Mountain Home, but now with fewer workers, a lot of the manual labor is left up to her. She tells me she's tried hiring locally, but it's been difficult to find people willing to do the hard work.
Finding a legal American here that is going to work as hard as an immigrant is nearly impossible.
She even posted job openings on Facebook.
I had 7 people contact me about it, and when I sent them the description, I had no people respond.
I went ahead and found the job listing. She's offering $2,000 to $3,000 a month for full-time manual labor on a farm.
She says hiring undocumented workers is not an option, with serious risks for both sides.
One, you're going to get fined. You have unfortunately, an employee living in fear. They could get picked up at any moment, and then you're without an employee.
To keep her farm running, Gotts is hiring high schoolers and is now looking into the federal H-2A visa program.
I have endeavored to spend $200,000 to build a small worker housing so that I can get H-2 workers next year.
This woman had $200,000 lying around that she could have used to pay some strapping young Idaho corn-fed boys to do the manual labor on her farm, but instead built temporary housing for visa workers. I never thought I'd live to see the day where liberal media was telling people, are you unwilling to pay Americans a fair and decent living wage for hard manual labor? Just import a bunch of people to do it for way cheaper and then put them in a house and they can't go anywhere else because what other option do they have? Man, I feel like there's a term for that, but it's just slipping my...
Just read this morning that Texas farmers are closing down because they can't find laborers to work their fields. Are you telling me white people won't work in the fields? Hey, all of you who thought they were taking your jobs, accepting applications now.
Well, Donald Trump is trying to get those immigrants to come back to the United States. You know all those farm workers that he's been deporting? Apparently it caused a labor shortage because we can't get enough Americans to get off their lazy ass to go out in the field and pick those veggies. So he changed the rules according to the New York Times and is offering temporary visas for those farm workers to come back and work. But they only have to pay them as low as $1 an hour in some states. And part of their compensation can be room and board. And he's offering it for those that has maids too. They can literally have people working in their field and in their house, and their whole compensation is giving them a place to sleep and some food. Kind of weird, ain't it? It's such a bad thing that the farm workers of America are suing his ass because they're saying that it's going to cut into their salary. And those are American people, actually, that runs farming equipment and stuff for farmers that aren't lazy. Does that sound like a fucking deal?
Hey y'all, listen, those of you asking me how much Nebraska is paying in terms of farm workers, Nebraska pays between $13 and $18 an hour starting out. So if you're coming here to work on the farms, and I get what you guys are saying, you want the MAGA people to be in the front of the line to show up and work these farms. But I want you to know this situation is serious because Nebraska is one of the top meat producers in the country. So if you want to keep eating them leaves and filet mignon and New York steak and so on and so forth, somebody got to work these farms. They're not going to work themselves is all I'm saying. Look here, MAGA people, y'all show up. People saying y'all need to be in the front line and show up and work these Nebraska farms before this state goes bankrupt. That's what I'm saying.
It's just been harder and harder and harder to find those people to work.
Bethany Gotts owns Quay's Farm in Mountain Home. But now, with fewer workers, a lot of the manual labor is left up to her. She tells me she's tried hiring locally, but it's been difficult to find people willing to do the hard work.
Finding a legal American here that is going to work as hard as an immigrant is nearly impossible.
She even posted job openings on Facebook.
Wow, so many things in that video. Okay, first, what she actually meant was illegal immigrant workers, because she does later on say that she is now being forced to apply for the H-2 visa program, and she's actually building, I believe, spending up to like $200,000 building these living quarters for the people if she can bring them over on the H-2 visa. So here's what happens on these farms. By the way, this has been a thing for a very long time. So this actually happened back in 2021, I believe. And what happens are they rely on this work from illegal immigrants, and then they get used to that whole situation, and now when that situation changes, they now have to figure out what to do. So they can pay lower wages, they bring down the wages, which basically makes that the norm in that industry. It lowers the wages, and also if you're hiring people that are undocumented, you don't have to abide by labor laws. And some of the conditions, and I'm not saying hers, but on these farms that have been investigated here in the US are, not good. And it says farm workers in the U.S., especially immigrant workers, have few protections. They were excluded from the National Labor Relations Act passed in 1935 and from the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938. Workers in America's agricultural fields are regularly subjected to abuses, high occurrences of and harassment, wage theft, including injuries, fatalities, being exposed to hazardous situations, all of these things.
So Texas farms don't have no workers? I like salad, y'all. I mean, what we gonna do? I'm not going out there. Y'all should have left them folks alone. Now look at us. We already overweight, out of shape, high blood pressure. Now we ain't got no vegetables. I am just waiting on MAGA to report to the fields. It's your turn.
What?
We have some big news right now. The Trump administration is now turning to migrant farm workers to address farm labor shortages, according to the New York Times. No, I'm not making this up. After conducting mass deportation of said migrant farm workers at the beginning of his second term, they're now trying to get them back, essentially. So the Trump administration is now turning to an alternative source, making it cheaper for farmers to hire immigrant farm workers on temporary visas. These changes specifically impact the H-2A visa program. And under the new changes, the Trump administration has now adjusted how wages paid to H-2 to a farm workers are calculated, essentially lowering the hourly rates anywhere from $1 to $7 in some states. And farm owners can now include housing as part of the compensation package provided to guest farm workers. They're reducing wages of farm workers in an effort to try to hire more migrant farm workers. That's brought a lawsuit from the Farm Workers of America saying that essentially it adversely harms American farm workers by lowering their wages or pushing them out of the labor pool entirely.
That's called sharecropping. If y'all don't know what sharecropping is, sharecropping was a post-Civil War agricultural system in the U.S. South where landowners allowed tenants, primarily former enslaved black people and poor whites, to use land in exchange for a share of the crops produced. It replaced slavery but trapped many in a cycle of poverty and debt slavery. The arrangement, landowners provided land, housing, tools, seed, and supplies while tenants provided the labor. Tenants often had to purchase necessities like food and clothing on credit from the landowner at a high interest rates, using their future crops as collateral. Slavery under another name. High interest rates and low crop prices often meant workers never cleared their debt, forcing them to remain on the land year after year. It's an old playbook, but they revamped it and changed some of the characters. You did this whole thing, mass deporting all of these migrant workers. So now they don't want to go to work because they're afraid that if they go to work, here comes your Gestapo. Now you're telling them, those who have left, come back under this visa. We gonna pay you $1 to $7 below the minimum below the minimum wage in America. The farmers get to pay you between $1 and $7 a fucking hour, and they may or may not give you housing. But I'm sure if they give you housing, they're gonna take that off of your pay. Sharecropping. Food? You need food? No problem. We'll give you $50 to go get groceries, but you gotta work 100 hours to pay us back. This is the same fucking shit. Oh my God. When will you guys listen to black people? When will you study what black people have been studying? We know the colonizers. They're using the same playbook. They're changing the characters, changing up the wording, but it's the same shit they've been doing to black people forever in this country. And for some reason, y'all just won't listen to black people. This is the same thing. This is called sharecropping.
Trump supporters, MAGA, another FAFO moment for you. I would hope you would have the courage to watch this video all the way through. I doubt you will. Now, before we go anywhere, I want you to do this. You won't, but I'm going to suggest it. Get your pay stub and look at how much money you are paying into Social Security and Medicare. Now I want you to apply a little math and multiply that amount over every paycheck you have gotten during your entire life. Because that's going to give you the total number, the total amount of money that you have put into a savings program for your retirement. It is not a tax. It is a forced savings program that you were forced to pay into. And now it's going to be gone. Because Trump and his band of pirates are wringing their hands and salivating over the fact that they can now steal your Social Security and your Medicare. All because you wanted to save a couple of cents on a carton of eggs. Which, by the way, that's not going to happen either, because Trump's tariffs add a hidden tax to everything you buy, even eggs. Even if eggs are grown locally, they are transported through a system that has a tariff imposed on it, so the price of those eggs still go up, even if they're grown entirely in the United States. But no, we have blinders on and we don't care. We want our orange cult leader no matter what. So what are you going to do when you lose all of that money? And I want you to understand how much money that is. So do that little exercise. Add up how much money you have paid into those programs, because that's how mad you should be when they take it away from you, which they are definitely going to do. You know, you don't just talk about this crap and then not do it. They are foreshadowing what they are going to do so that you slowly get used to it. It is like the frog in a slow boil story, right? Which is if you put a frog in a pot and you slowly bring it to boil, the frog doesn't object. It just slowly comes to a boil. But if you take that frog and you drop it in to a pot of boiling water, it screams and yells, and that's what they do to you. They slowly, incrementally get you used to the idea of being abused by them, to the point where you'll actually cheer for it, which is what you've been doing. So what are you going to do when this actually happens? I'm curious. Are you going to put the blame where it belongs? Or are you just going to roll over and say, well, okay, that was a socialist program. That was communism. It was socialism. I'm going to be so curious to see what happens with you when the hammer falls. FAFO.
Yeah, I hope you have watched those videos, and it's very interesting that when you really look at it, it didn't just come out of nowhere. For years, agriculture in the US has depended heavily on immigrants' labor, not as some side option, but as a core part of how the whole system runs. Well, here we're talking about long hours, physically demanding work, and tight harvest deadlines. It's the kind of job people respect in theory, but very few actually step up to do consistently, especially at the wages most farms can afford to offer. So, over time, farmers leaned on immigrants, workers to keep things moving. Then policies got stricter. Deportation increased. Fear spread all over, and workers started disappearing from the field. At first, maybe it didn't seem like a big deal, but right now, it's very real. Crops are going unpicked, food is being wasted a lot, and farmers are taking serious financial hits. And this is where the conversation gets very uncomfortable for many, because now some of these farmers who supported those crackdowns are asking for help. More visas, faster approvals, fewer restrictions. You can imagine. In simple terms, they're saying they need the very workforce that's no longer there. That's why people are so divided on this. Some people are calling it consequences, saying this was predictable. Others are saying it exposes a deep problem, and that the system was never built to function without that labor in the first place. And honestly, both sides have a point. Because first, the reality is how you can't just remove a major workforce overnight and expect everything to balance itself out. I think real life doesn't work like that. So now, we're watching this play out of real time. False. Where decisions that once felt political are turning into real world consequences. But the big question is, what happens next? Do things shift now that the pressure is real, or do people stand firm even as the impact grows? I want to hear what you think about this in the comment section. Do you see it as a consequences or proof the system was flawed from the start? Drop your thoughts in the comment section, folks. And if you want more real, honest breakdowns like this, please, folks, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share so more people can be part of this conversation. Because this story is far from over. Until next time, folks, please have a good day, and let's meet in the next episode.